can get it as cold soaked as possible. So this is the parking garage at my apartment here. So normally I park below here in the covered area, but today I'm parked on the very top floor of the parking garage to leave it as exposed as possible, which is usually the exact opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish when I'm parking my vehicles. But for sake of some science and YouTube content, we're leaving it outside, letting it fully cold soak overnight. And now we'll get back to today's video and we'll see how it charges. You saw what it was like last night, so I'm a little surprised it's not actually like covered in frost. All I've done so far is walk up to it. I set my backpack down, but let's see what we're at. It is frigid in here. 26%, 72 miles estimated. I believe it was at 31%, 85 miles estimated last night. And let's just see if it indicated any change. I don't recall what that said last night, but see what we got for regen power limit. I can hear the AC or the I think air compressor running. Maybe the heater? Not entirely sure. But let me get out my thermal camera and we'll check out the outside here. Yeah, sounds like the compressor's running there. And let's just see how things look on thermals. Hopefully you can see that screen. So let's just take a look here. I'll try and include some of this video too if I can, but overall nothing too crazy. You can see that the black parts of the Rivian are a bit warmer than the light parts, which makes sense just from thermal absorption. But let's hop in the truck and we're gonna head over to charging station. All right, so let's head over to a charging station, but we're not going to precondition the battery. So we're gonna head to this EVgo Carmel Commons. Hopefully it's working. I was there yesterday if you haven't already watched that video. So rather than navigating to the charging station itself, we're just gonna navigate to the spot. That way it doesn't precondition the battery. And then I did wanna mention that there could be multiple factors that are impacting the displayed available energy or range. It could be some amount of actual phantom drain, like actually taking energy out of the battery, but as the battery cools, the available energy actually is reduced. So it's not necessarily energy flowing out, but just thermal reduction of available energy in the battery. But we're gonna head over to the EVgo station. That's a 350 kilowatt charger. And we're gonna see how slow this charges, because unfortunately I can't see the battery pack temperature. Really wish I could. Rivian, please give us the ride mode back that gave us all the nerdy details. But you took it away after Motor Trend put out an article talking about it, which was kind of silly. I don't know why they did that, but would really like to know battery temperature and all that fun stuff. And I think being hidden behind the menu is adequate. Like, not everyone needs that information, but those that want it should be able to have it, in my opinion. We'll see you at the EVgo station and try to stay warm. It's pretty freaking cold out. So there you can see my efficiency the last 15 minutes, and I don't even have the heat crank, so that's pretty crazy. Also, I'm pulling a Brandon and going the wrong way on accident, so I guess I'll have to flip around at some point here, or it'll redirect me, hopefully. Oops. But I'm driving pretty gingerly to not put too much warmth into the battery pack when I really tested cold versus warm. Also, we've only driven about 2 miles and we're already down to 23% from 26%. So definitely using the power here. That is very inefficient, but not sure if it's due to heater or if it's heating up the battery or what's happening. All right, we made it. We're at 19%, 52 miles estimated. We've got the station to ourselves here. Last night, I know this gave full 500 amps. I didn't personally use it on my Rivian, but I saw another Rivian get the full 500 amps. There you can see our efficiency, which I'm actually a bit skeptical of. I think it's quite a bit worse than that, given the percentage loss that we had. And there's also 1.14 miles per kilowatt hour. So let's just take a look at the station with the thermal camera and see if it seems to have been used recently. So let's see here. So you can see the screen is warm, and the cables look a bit warm potentially, but that's most likely just due to them being black and it being a bit sunny out. You can see the warmth on the tires there, which is kind of cool. Let's see any other hot spots on the Rivian. Tonneau cover is very cold because there's not really anything below it. Again, tires. Let's see if there's any sensor spots or anything that seem to be warming up here. Not really, surprisingly. But you can see the in-car is warm. So let me get the station activated and then we'll get charging and I'll record how it does. All right, got it activated. Let's get plugged in. These cables are very stiff and these temps takes a lot of grip to, there we go. Man, that was not easy. Let's wait for it to start charging in the truck and then we'll hop out and take a look at the actual current and volts. Hopefully it works without issue, and it is 19 degrees there, just to show you. Very cold. Definitely feeling the cold. Taking a bit here to start up. Not necessarily a great sign. Here contactors clicking, that's good. And let's see. So we're getting, wow. And there we have the answer. We're getting a whopping 20 kilowatts. That is, wow, that's really bad. Well, we'll let that charge for a moment and see how it ramps up and if it warms up rather quickly. But I think the main importance of this test is to see how well it charges in the cold for cases like you're on a road trip, you roll in late to a hotel, you let it sit overnight because there's not charging or whatever, and then you want to charge in the morning. I think this goes to show just how important it is to charge before or the night before when the battery's warm, and also to use preconditioning because that really will speed up your charging process significantly. It makes a huge difference to have a preconditioned battery and have it nice and warm, but 25 kilowatt is really slow because that's what we're up to now. Interesting, we've been charging here just for 2 minutes now and the message is gone, and now we're actually ramping up, so must have hit a thermal threshold there. So that's actually better than I expected. Wow, we're actually already up to 80 something kilowatt. That's pretty acceptable actually. Let's see what it says on the unit. Just make sure it's not a unit limitation, that it's a vehicle limitation. Session detail. So, oh, we're actually maxing out the station. I don't know why it's maxing at 209 amps, but turns out it's actually a station side limitation rather than a vehicle side limitation, which is unfortunate. Might switch cables here and hope to get the full 500 amps, but we don't have coolant, or we don't have cable coolant running. There's no vibration, there's no noise, so maybe the cooling system on this unit isn't functioning. Why does this have to be so hard? All right, swap cables to the left side cable there. Polestar just arrived and had to tell them that both of those units are down, which is really unfortunate. Let's see how this ramps up, see if we get full power this time. So that's looking good. Let's see what the current limitation looks like. See, this one's limited as well. So it looks like 210 amps is all she wrote, which is really unfortunate. So I guess I'll just charge up a bit here and then we'll head to another station. I guess we'll head to Electrify America. So we're still getting about 80 something kilowatt. And let's just set our nav to the Electrify America and try that out. Not 100% confident in that range estimation there. And still 85, 86 kilowatt. But maybe this will get battery preconditioning running already. Not entirely sure what Rivian's logic is there with running preconditioning while charging. but I'll probably charge up to 25-30% or so, just to have a bit of a safe buffer to make it all the way there, given the temperatures outside. So it looks like we've got a 250 amp limit now, rather than the 209 that we were getting previously, up to 103 kilowatt, or max of 174. Well, pretty interesting behavior. We're now up to 140 kilowatts. So it seems that the charging station itself was more of a limiting factor than the vehicle in this case. So we're now up to a max of 411 amps. So now it does seem like the vehicle is limiting to that 140 or so kilowatt, but that's actually really pretty acceptable, I would say. Let's see. Cable cooling still doesn't seem to be running. And let's just see what this Polestar is getting home. So I'm on this one, even though I'm on that side because I swapped cables. So they're getting 58 or 60 kilowatts, and they pulled in at 0%, which is a bit daring. Sounds like it was accidental though. So they're getting, they're still vehicle limited here because their battery was probably really cold, and especially with the low state of charge. But 406 volts at 3% is surprising for a Polestar. I would expect it to be lower than that. And here's mine again. Let's see details. Stations are pretty responsive though, even in the cold. But let's unplug here. So especially since we're being billed by time, it's really not the most cost effective. And then that way it'll open up full power for this Polestar so that they can charge and get on their way. And I'll enable preconditioning and we'll head to Electrify America. So it looks like we got 19.5 kilowatt hour, and it's like nearly impossible to see these buttons here. Let's just see. So they should be now have, okay, so up to 540 amps on this Polestar. So in theory, they should be able to charge pretty quick, and they're up to 5%. And we're up to 36% in the Rivian. And I'm actually going to reset this here as we're pulling out of the EVgo to see what kind of efficiency we get on our way to Electrify America. It's 28 minutes away, so that should give it a pretty good opportunity to precondition, I would think. But one will find out, and I would hope we'll get over 200 kilowatts because we'll probably arrive with 20% or so. Well, we just arrived to Electrify America. We're at 25%. This number 9 here is the most promising. I actually jacked up the truck into off-road mode so I could back up over the curb without any issues, especially as this goes up a bit. So that way this cable will reach all the way to the front here. I couldn't activate the station actually on the app. It was giving me an error, which is really annoying. So I'm going to try and use the NFC activation, and maybe that will work. Maybe. We'll see, I guess. Hello. Let's see. Got another Rivian there. Looks like it's one without a tonneau cover, actually. Let's see. Let's see. It seems to be reading my Electrify America card of sorts. Maybe. So I did that. Let's try this again on the app. Oh, it seems to have worked now. It just took a while. But we should have a very preconditioned battery, and the truck looks kind of ridiculous like this, but if it works, it works. Let's see. It says it was started successfully. Let's see what kind of speeds we're getting. The truck is very high in the air here. And that looks pretty solid to me, except that looks like speeds that you would get out of a 150 kilowatt Electrify America rather than a 350 kilowatt unit. So I suspect this unit is derated, unfortunately. But I'm gonna put on my gloves and we'll check out how things are going at the rest of the station here. Let that charge for a few minutes. So we actually have a fair amount of stations open here. We've got the two down there without carts in them, or just with one cart in them today. We've got an i3 charging. We've got both of these spots open. It's nice silver Rivian, like I said, without a tonneau cover, or just open, I guess. We've got Bolt, my Rivian, and Ioniq 5. And busy day, Christmas Eve. It's pretty nice being able to just raise up the truck and go over a curb if needed. Actually, I probably would have been fine even without raising up the truck, but I just feel more confident that way. But if they just used longer cables or configured their sites differently, you wouldn't need to do that. I just looked at the charging screen of the Ioniq 5 next to me, and they're getting a whopping 46 kilowatts, which unfortunately I suspect is actually due to the vehicle rather than the station, because EGMP cars are super sensitive to low temperatures, and it's still only 23 degrees outside, and EGMP cars currently don't have a way to precondition, which is just truly terrible and makes them downright almost unusable in the winter. Charging speeds are bouncing in the 160 kilowatt range. I think we're gonna head to the Freewire unit next, see how that's doing in the cold, and hopefully with a fully charged battery in the morning here. I looked and no one's using it currently, so in theory it should be charging right now or fully charged, and also that's free to use, whereas this I'm paying for, but still relatively cheap. I do want to see what the other Rivian is getting for charging speeds. Big fan of LA Silver on the R1T black matte interior, so this is basically a base spec, especially with the 21-inch, but they did put some stickers on it, which not a huge fan of. They're getting 140 kilowatt, which is pretty reasonable, and looks like they're smart and got Pass Plus. So looks like they're doing this EV thing right. And you can see the no tonneau or open tonneau, not entirely sure which. Let's just see status of these stations here. This one shows as ready, 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 but with the cable on the ground. Let's put that back and see if it will actually stay, maybe. Hopefully. And ready. So that's actually better than typical. It is cold. Up to 143 kilowatt. This unit we tried yesterday. This cable's unavailable, but this one worked yesterday. We've got a Bolt charging on that one. I'm charging on that one. And we've got this Ioniq 5 here. I'll show you the screen, but there's people in the car. Well, I guess miracles do happen. We're at over 200 kilowatts now, which is pretty great. Cannot complain about that. But we're gonna head to the Freewire here shortly now that we've proven the truck can go over 200 kilowatts in these temps. And that way we'll be able to max out that Freewire unit. Just arrived to this Freewire unit. We'll get plugged in just a moment. We're at 39% there. But this doesn't make any sense at all, because that should be probably closer to 25 kilowatt hour, something like that. Really not sure how that math makes any sense whatsoever. But there you can see where we are. Let's check out the thermals of the unit prior to plugging in. Gotta be mindful of these bollards so I don't whack my door in them. It's not in a great spot, I would say. Here we have the unit, and just position the thermal camera here. So you can see the screen's warm. The black of the unit itself is slightly warm there. Let's look at the vents on the side. It's not making noise, so must not be actively running at the moment. But you can definitely see that there's some warmth there. Let's see if the other side is different. Not really. So let's get plugged in and then we'll see how that changes. So we're plugged in now. Got the session starting up. We do hear some noise now. Finishing charging sequence. That's not a good sign. We've got a red charge port light. Let's try that again, I suppose. Not off to a great start here. So this time I just pressed the start button on the screen, and since it's on free vent, I guess that works. So right now Chattanooga's still available. Let's see how that shifts as I draw over. So now it says port diverted, and we're getting 110 kilowatt. Let's see how high we go. Should do a bit more than that, but maybe it's limited, not entirely sure. Let's see what the vehicle's saying. 112 kilowatts, so hard to complain about that, especially when it's free, but let's see how much power we can get out of this thing today. Hopefully it just keeps giving the power because it wasn't in use prior. And we'll check on the thermals in a moment. Well, we're down to 54 kilowatts we're down to 54 kilowatts at 79%. That's just normal charge curve for the Rivian. Doesn't charge very fast up top, unfortunately. But let's see how thermals are doing on the Freewire unit here. Let's see the cable first. Not really any noticeable heat, which is interesting, but it is pretty cold. Let's see on the vents here, so we do have some warmth, but not a whole lot. I think if it was warmer out, we'd probably be actually seeing some things. But nope. So we're charging along here, and we did prove that yesterday's experience was just due to the battery inside the Freewire unit, and we've delivered 54 kilowatt hour, and we're still getting just normal charging speeds for the vehicle. It topped out around 115 kilowatt, which is a little interesting. Wish it went to the full 150 kilowatt. I'm just charging up to 85% here, just so I don't have to bother charging at my apartment. And yes, now I'm giving the slower close to full charge warning. Well, we're almost fully charged here. We've added 70 kilowatt hour in 54 minutes. I've just been on my laptop doing some other stuff here, so not really burning time or anything. We're charged up to 92%. But I think we've proven that Rivian works fine in the cold. That charging stations may have a little bit of weird performance in the cold, like that Delta that we saw. But overall, things are fine in the cold, which is good. Sorry if this was a bit of a mishmash of a video, but I think we accomplished the goal of seeing how the Rivian does in the cold, and it's fine. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you on the next one.